Hi guys, welcome back to my page. So I have an interesting topic in mind. I want to pose a question to you guys. I already asked my following on another page. We had a discussion about this topic about ass whoopings, childhood ass whoopings. I'm not talking about spankings. I'm talking about ass whoopings. Who got ass whoopings growing up as a child? That's what we're going to talk about here in this video. And I have a lot to say on the topic, because I can definitely relate. I can relate. So I want to see what you guys have to say on this topic. I really would like to hear what you guys have to say. So comment below. Feel free to comment below. Chime in, as you may. And share this video. I actually want you guys to share this video. Share if you got ass whoopings growing up as a child. That damn extension cord. He already got into it, y'all. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right into this discussion, because it's an interesting topic. It's very sensitive, I understand. Because I don't know. I think there are mixed feelings about the topic. There are sorry. There are like mixed views on this topic, as far as should parents beat their children? Should parents administer childhood spankings? Is that even something that's even legal? We're going to talk about all of that here in this video. So give me a second, y'all. I have to do something. Sorry. Give me a second. I'll be right back. All right, y'all. Sorry about that. I am back. I had to send somebody a text, but please comment below if you feel like you want to share. Comment below. Beat no, spank yes. We are here to guide them to make direct and sound decisions. Interesting, Brandon. So I was going to get into that, the difference between childhood spankings and abuse. Now, when I was growing up as a child, I'm just going to go ahead and get right into it because I know we don't have much time to waste. I know a lot of you guys have to get up and go to work tomorrow. And I have things I have to do too. But anyway, I think I've told this story, but not really. I don't really talk about it. This is not something that I go around necessarily advertising or talking about or, Sometimes I talk about it. Sometimes I don't really feel too comfortable talking about it because it just feels weird, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like something that is taboo. I think a lot of people aren't really open about it. Some people, when they are open about it, they joke about it and they laugh. They're like, yeah, I got ass whoopings. My mom beat my ass. My dad beat my ass. Da, da, da. My parents, with my ass. And the people, I think, talk about it like more in a joking manner. Switches. Share this video if you got your ass whooped as a child. But people talk about it in like a joking manner. And while I think it puts people at ease, I think, to talk about it in a joking manner or whatever, or I don't know. That's maybe how people cope with it, or maybe it wasn't a problem. Y'all help me out. Fill me in on this. We need to have a discussion on this topic because I think my experience growing up and getting whoopings, I actually call them beatings because they were beatings. Sorry, y'all. They were beatings, and they were harsh beatings. But a lot of people say they got spanked. Some people say, they just got the belt. But for me growing up, it was no joke. It was some serious business. My mom did not play the freaking radio. And a lot of times, like, when I talk about my discipline growing up, how I was raised, like, I speak about it in terms of, like, how I feel. And I actually felt like a freaking slave. Like, no lie. Felt like a freaking slave when I got my ass whooped by my mom, which was pretty often, And like I said, I don't think I really opened up and talked about it. Like, for most people who do talk about it, like I say, we kind of just joke about it. So I maybe have just briefly threw it out there and like, yeah, I got my ass whooped. But it's not something that I necessarily joke about. Like, it's not something that, I don't know. It's not something that I'm proud of. And I'm going to tell you guys why in this video. So feel free to share. I want you guys to share your perspective. Don't hold back. If you have a perspective on a topic, of course you do, I'm sure. Feel free to share. Feel free to share this video and comment below and let me know what your perspective is on this topic. Because I know we all have, we all grew up differently. Some of us, although we all probably can relate in terms of getting spankings, I think the difference is in how we process it, or a difference is maybe in the degree or the intensity of the spanking. So I'll just go ahead and get right into it. Like when I was growing up, my mom, like I say, she was really strict. I grew up in the South, I'm from Florida. And first of all, my mom was like 30 when she had me. So I think that's kind of old, on average for a woman, to procreate. But she was 30. And by the way, I'm 34. So I may look young, but I have some years on me. And my dad, he was 42 when he had me and whatever. So my parents were a little bit older. Definitely old school, old fashioned, in their approach. And y'all go ahead and share this video. Like, we got to get people talking and get people chiming in on this topic, because I think it's really important, especially in the African American community. Like, we need to have this discussion. I haven't really seen too many people talking about childhood spankings or beatings, and when it is discussed, it's kind of discussed more like in a playful manner and joking manner. And I just kind of really want to really go in on it. I really want to address this topic in a serious manner, because I think it is something serious. We can joke about it, of course, because we're adults now. Like, I'm grown up. Come on, that was like years ago, like ages ago. It feels like anyway, but I can remember it like it was yesterday. I can remember the spankings like it was yesterday. I call them spankings because that's what people call them now, but I felt like, no, it was a beating. It definitely was a beating. And if you ask me, and which I think a lot of people, this is where the controversial part comes in, because a lot of people, they get offended when I say I felt like I was abused as a child. Like, people get offended. Like, how can people get offended because I'm just telling my story from my perspective, And somebody just laughed. Like, who the hell just fucking click the fucking smiley face button? Super beating. But yes, I was, I felt like I was abused as a child. Now, I know, see, black people, I have to remember who I'm talking to. I have to really remember who I'm talking to, because, black people, especially in the hood, it's like, they just look at it differently, It's a joke, I think. This shit is a joke. So to say, and somebody just laugh. I can't believe that somebody just freaking laughed. See? Stop it. Y'all making me laugh. When it's not really funny, because black people look at it like it's nothing, right? And I'm glad you guys are laughing. I'm glad you guys are laughing, because it really helps to put things into perspective. And I know definitely where it comes from. I had a discussion with a friend the other day, and he was like, have you done, your ancestry to see, like, a research or whatever, to see, like, where part of Africa you come from? And I'm like, dude, there is no freaking question that I'm a descendant of a slave. But it's like, it was almost as if he was trying to contest me or whatever, and trying to debate and challenge me or whatever, to say, oh, well, no, you're not, and this, how do you know that you are a descendant of a slave? And I'm like, I know, trust me, I know, just growing up in the household I grew up in, that shit, when I learned about fucking slave history in school, like when I learned all about what happened back then, and I look at what was happening in my freaking household, I didn't see much difference. So I'm like, I have to be a freaking descendant of a slave. I know that shit running my family somewhere a couple generations down, and so I kind of want to talk about it from that perspective too, because I know that's a lot, like, I know where it comes from. I know where the practice of the beatings come from. And I want you guys to comment and let, like, if you feel comfortable talking about it. Now, if you don't feel comfortable sharing, you don't have to share anything. But if you feel comfortable sharing and talking about, your childhood spankings or beatings and what it was like, growing up, because I know for everybody it was different. I'm not American, but my home was very disciplined. My mom was strict as hell. When I say strict, like I don't know. I don't think I'm doing justice. Like she was super. She did not play the radio. Like straight bass. I felt like it was a military household. And she did not hold back. Like she was so strict. She was like she had very specific rules. What she wanted me to follow, me and my sister. At the time, my older sister, and she was like, say yes, sir, say yes, ma'am, no, sir, no, ma'am, like really, really strict. No tolerance for disobedience, especially not in the household, not in school, not around other adults, like zero tolerance whatsoever for it. You get what I'm saying? And she ingrained in me and my sister's head that what we can expect if we broke the rules. We did not love unconditionally. My father punished, my mother did not. And that's another thing. My household was different. My dad never beat me, right? It was my mom. Like my mom, she came down. Dude. And when I say I know I'm a descendant of slaves, it's just how we got beat. It was like a ritual, like every single time. And I got a lot of beatings. And I'm going to share with you guys, a few of them then, what led up to the beating. But it was crazy. And I know you laughing, it's funny to y'all, but when I say that growing up for me as a child, I felt like it was abuse. Like I literally felt like I was abused as a child because I'm like, this shit is not right. Like she would literally have us strip completely naked and lay across the bed. And dude said, somebody already commented and said cord. Like her choice weapons were extension cord, cable cord, belt. But it was something about the extension cord. I don't know, something about the extension cord. And it's like a thick, y'all know the like round cable cord, real freaking thick and round. And I think it was black. And she didn't have any freaking mercy, I felt like. And I'm talking about when I was young, when I was like grade school age. So she would, have us lay down and strip and take off our clothes. And at the time, of course, I was not developed, so I didn't have a bra, I didn't have any breasts or whatever. So she would have us strip down just to my underwear, and it was crazy. My sister, I think she was developed at the time. I think she was. It came a point where she was developed, right? And she would have her even stripped down. It was to her bra and panties. And lay across the bed. And I'm like, why the stripping down part? Now, I want to ask you guys, parents who still do this practice. I know y'all probably ain't going to comment, especially after I go into some other stuff later. But if you feel comfortable commenting, I know parents, I'm wondering, do you guys still do this? We're in 2018. I grew up in the 80s. I was born in 83. So I'll be 35 this year. And back then, it was a thing. I laugh because every time something happens that black people don't agree with, they go to slavery thing. But beatings and spankings happen in all races, but others don't say it's because of what? It's because of being slaves. No, I'm talking about straight. I'm talking about it's difference. Trust me, I know what I'm talking about when I say that I'm a descendant. I know you not from this country, but I am. I'm definitely am, and so I definitely know. Definitely, I know my history, and you can just tell in households. You can tell just what my mom would speak. Like she would speak to me like a slave. Like it was just, to me, it was unheard of. And when I say I was young, I was like grade school age. I was elementary school age, and I remember these beatings. and she would have us stripped down to our bare skin, lay across the bed and continue just to beat and beat and beat our backs and beat our backs. And slavery just ain't happening in America. So I don't know what part you're from, Sylvie, but slavery is just not, it's not in America. They had slaves in Haiti, slaves was in Jamaica, like it's all over. So this practice, this is how they disciplined the slaves. And I'm looking at how they beat the slaves, how the slaves, they were naked. And I'm, as a little girl, is laying there completely naked on the bed and getting these beatings. I literally felt like I was abused, and when you look at the aftermath of it, when I got up from it, when we got up from it, we definitely came up with welts across our body, and all over. And to me, I think it was I don't know. To me, it was a horrifying experience. It was like terrifying. I'm thinking like this thing is just, I don't know. It really had me as a child. I don't know. I felt like it's hard to even express in words how I felt as a child, And then it continued. It's not like it stopped when I was a child. It continued through middle school age, it even got to the point where I was in high school. Like I was in high school still getting freaking beatings. So that's why I want to hear your perspective on this topic. People who have, a perspective that's respectful. I'm sorry, Sylvia, I had to block you from this, but I took offense to that. I don't know. I take offense to when people laugh. Because I don't think it's funny, but it can be funny, I guess, depending on how your spankings were when you grew up. So if you're going to laugh, at least share your perspective on the topic. You say that you got beatings growing up, then share that. Don't just sit there and laugh at me, because it definitely wasn't a laughing matter when I got those spankings. I can tell you that right now. And I think I think it's really sad though, because for a lot of African Americans, it's like they try to normalize and say, oh, well, other races beat their kids, so why try to make it a race thing? And I'm like, dude, we know what kind of thing this is. We know where this practice comes from. It comes from slavery. Like, trust me, I know exactly what I'm talking about. And what actually came from that as an adult, that's a whole nother video. So I don't want to talk about everything in one video. I kind of want to piece it apart a little bit. But I can definitely tell you, from childhood through adolescent, I got my ass whooped, and it was not a laughing matter. It's nothing funny about that. I feel like, and especially in the way in which I was whooped, or I call it beat, it was just, to me, I think, and this is what I think the most important part of it is that I felt like it breaks a person down. You get what I'm saying? It breaks a person's spirit down. It's a difference. And I think someone mentioned this, between discipline, with the intent to correct behavior, and abuse. You get what I'm saying? And what I'm talking about, what I'm speaking of, and like I already said, I look at it as abusive behavior, so I definitely don't think anything is funny about that. But I think for some people it is funny, because I think for some Black people, that's just how they cope with it. That's just how they process it, and for some Black people, I don't know. I guess it's laughing stock. It's laughing stock to talk about how they got their ass whooped as a child or whatever. But for me, I definitely take offense to it, and I don't know. Even like when I talked about it in class, I literally came to tears talking about it, y'all, because that's just how impacted by it I was. And granted, I have an older sister. I mean, I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers, but my sister, where we share the same mother, she's 3 years older than me. We grew up in the same household, and she, just look at how she processed it, which, I'm not going to go too much in depth, about her, but she processed it much differently than how I processed it. So I think like even her perspective, she's just like, yeah, I got my ass whooped, whatever. Everybody get their ass whooped. Big deal. It's not a race thing. So I definitely understand it from that perspective when still be mentioned that, it's not necessarily a factor of race. It's something that happens across different racial boundaries or whatever. But nah, dog, nah, son. Like New Yorkers say, nah, son. Nah, son. And I know growing up in America, you can tell things that have been passed down from generation to generation. So she already said she didn't grow up in America, but growing up in America, like certain things are passed down, and you can just tell this the same mentality, the mindset of African Americans when they were slaves back in the 1800s and the 1700s is just like the same mentality of African Americans today. Why? Because those practices have been passed down. So while we may laugh because it's funny, or it makes us feel uncomfortable, I guess, to talk about it. So that's how you respond to it. That's how you deal with the anxiety of talking about it by laughing. I get it. But, I feel like I want to have a real serious conversation with you guys, about it, because I can laugh about it. It's not like I haven't laughed about it. Come on, I'm not always serious. But I kind of want to be able to have a serious discussion about this topic, especially from a mental health perspective, because that's where I'm coming from, And I know it's a practice that has been passed down generation. And even in the 80s, that shit was still strong. I mean, I don't know, it probably was at its height. Because I think in the 90s and 2000s, millennium, that shit kind of tapered off, where parents weren't really disciplining their kids like that. They weren't beating their kids like that. You have some parents that do. Trust me, some parents do beat their kids, or they spank them. I would say spank. More of a spank, because they don't leave any marks, don't have whelps or anything like that. It's just a spanking. I think a lot of kids get that. Like they may get hit on the pat on the butt or whatever, or with a hand, with a brush or something like that. Just something small, right? But that's not what I'm talking about, you guys. I'm definitely not talking. I'm talking about extension cord, stripped butt naked, laying across the bed, and it's like 15, 20 minutes duration. You get what I'm saying? Just going in. It's like a session. It literally is a session. And I can remember, I remember it like it was yesterday, I would get beat for things my sister did. Like my mom had a code in the house where it don't matter who did it. She wants to hold everybody accountable for the behavior, so everybody got beat. Everybody got beat. And the beatings weren't just some small beatings. I feel like the beatings it was abusive behavior, because it continued through my adolescence. And my mom, up until the age of I was 12, my mom and my dad, we all lived together in the same house. Oh, so I grew up with my mom and my dad, and it was, it was beautiful. Despite, like I say, I got beat, but something good came from that. It's not all bad. I made straight A's as a kid growing up in elementary school, like top of my class, just smart, center of attention, like I did well, as a child or whatever. So it didn't necessarily impact me in that way, academically in a negative way. Actually, I think it probably worked to my benefit, because my mom, like I said, she just did not play the radio. And up until the age of 12, that was sixth grade. So I finished sixth grade. And then summertime, the summer of my sixth grade year, that's when my mom and my dad, they separated. And so my mom moved back to St. Augustine to stay with her mother, my grandmother. And It was an awful time. It was an awful time because I was away from my dad, and I feel like my dad definitely saved me from a lot of ass whoopings. You know, that's the thing. I love my dad. My dad, like, he spoiled me. He definitely did. I was a daddy's girl. And he saved me from a lot of ass whoopings. He didn't like the fact that my mom disciplined me in the way that she did. And I remember they would get into arguments about it. You know, I remember one time that she was like in the process of getting ready to discipline me, and he came home, you know, and stopped it. And I was just saved by the bell. Like, thank God, you know, because I really had got tired of it. But then, you know, at the point my mom left my dad and I was 12, she moved to St. Augustine, took us to St. Augustine, Florida, which is like, what, 20 miles outside of Jacksonville. And lived there. And up until the point I was 16 years old. 16 years old when I realized that something was wrong with this. Something, like, I just had to come to an understanding and a realization that this is not right. You know, this is definitely not right. People can laugh about it because they don't know the words to form, I guess. They don't know what to say. But for me, it's not a laughing matter simply because I can understand the whole dynamic. And I can understand the impact, you know, that it has on a person psychologically. And a lot of people, you know, they just continue this practice on and on and on and on, and wonder why certain things happen, I think, within their children, you know, and wonder why Black people, the Black community, is in a condition and in the state that it's in now. You know, like that's kind of like a whole nother video. If I really want to go deep, I can keep it in this video and talk about it here. But it's kind of like a whole nother video, you know, because I think this thing is really multi-layered when we look at it. And it got to the point, you know, I got tired of the beatings. The beatings to me were tragic. You know, people laugh about it, but it definitely is not a laughing matter, you know, because I was 16 years old, and like I said, my mom left my dad when I was 12. So for 4 years, you know, I lived with my mother, and it was weird. You know, I felt like the beatings got worse, and I remember the last beating. You know, I was in school, straight A student, like I'm a star student, you know, did everything right. I felt like I was a good kid. I didn't feel like I was a bad kid. So when people laugh and they say, oh, like parents, I guess assume like, what are you talking about? You deserve to get whooped if you did something wrong. But I'm like, no, I wasn't a bad kid. I felt like I was a good kid. You know, I was very obedient. I just felt like my mom was very strict, super strict, you know, and very overbearing, very controlling. You know, she was just the opposite of what I think I would want to be. But like they say, you find yourself becoming, you know, your parents. And she's a very dominant woman. She didn't play the radio at all. And so it got to a point where I said, enough is enough. Like, I couldn't take it anymore. Like, I really couldn't take it. Sorry. I really couldn't take it anymore. And what I ended up doing, I had to plan an escape. Like, I couldn't live under my mom's roof anymore. I could not tolerate getting spanked anymore, you know? And, you know, I made it. First, I have to tell y'all the story of how it came to that point. I want you guys to share this video. So comment below if you got your ass whooped as a child. Comment below if you got your ass whooped. But I was telling y'all about my last spanking, and it was crazy. I was 16 years old. I was in high school, a sophomore, and this is St. Augustine, and it was crazy. I was headed to class, like I say, straight A student. Like, I've always made good grades, great grades, absolutely. And I am in the hallway, and this kid was bothering me. It was a kid in the hallway, a guy actually in the hallway. And I'm headed to class. He was, you know, how you call it, horse playing, you know, and that's what kids like to do. This kid was horse playing. And he ended up I think he put his hands on me and did something and like ran. You know how guys like to tease girls and stuff. And he was teasing. He was teasing me, essentially. I'm headed to class, doing what I need to do. He was teasing me, you know, bothering me, distracting me from me being on the course for what I was trying to do, which was get to class, right, before the bell rang. And I remember it, y'all. When he did that, he ran. So he got away. But then the dean saw me in the hall and was like, come here. Just out of nowhere. It's like, come here. And I got called into the dean's office and written up. They called my mom. And she had this rule, like, don't call her on her job. Call her on her job. And she came to the school to pick me up, which she didn't have to. I mean, I'm 16 years old. You get what I'm saying? But my mom was so strict, y'all. This is what I'm saying. She's so strict. She left her job. Left her job, y'all. And I'm 16 years old. Who does that? She left her job, came, picked me up from school, and took me home. And on that ride home, and I'm going to have to give you guys, because see, that's the thing. I actually wrote, and you guys who are familiar with me, I already wrote my story, you know. It's called American Dreamer. So I already wrote my autobiography, you know, about my life growing up and the whole shebang. Because there's a lot more to the story than what I guess I feel comfortable saying verbally to you guys in words right now and in videos. So I kind of prefer to kind of share some things just in the written form in my book. So for you guys, if you want the full story, you have to go check out American Dreamer. But I can give you guys a little snapshot. So on the way home, I remember the drive, you know, from school. And it was like she had me around her finger. You get what I'm saying? And I feel like I'm just against it, y'all. I know everybody have different points of view, you know, and some black people, they say, well, there's nothing wrong with it. Beat your kid. But I'm here to say and make it clear right now that I do believe something is wrong with beating kids. You know, I can say that without a shadow of a doubt, especially the way I was beat. You know, I was beat, y'all. Beat. Welts. Like, a kid should not have freaking welts on their body for like weeks at a time. You get what I'm saying? Like, I had welts on my body. Bruises. Like, no. Y'all not gonna tell me that that's just, oh, it's just tradition. It's just normal. Tate says me too. A lot of people have. That's why I wanted you guys to comment. Who got ass whoopings as a kid? And so, on the way home from school, you know, I'm in high school, I'm sitting here thinking about this ass whooping because I already knew. She didn't have to tell me she gonna whoop my ass. Like, I already knew. You get what I'm saying? It was just expected. Like, I'm gonna get an ass whooping. You know what I'm saying? So, riding in the car, and I'm in my mind, I'm at the age where, like, that's the thing about adolescence, and I feel like a lot of parents just don't get it. I understand adolescence so clearly, y'all. You know, because it's just almost as if I just came away from adolescence. It's like it's so fresh in my mind. I remember it like it was yesterday, growing up as a teenager. And in my mind, y'all, I'm sitting here thinking like, not again. This shit ain't gonna happen no freaking more. You know, it's not going to happen again. I had to tell myself that, like, I felt like I had to develop the confidence to tell myself it's not going to happen. There's no way I am going to be 16 years old and laying across the bed naked getting ass whooping. I told myself this. I cannot do it. I couldn't do it. I could not do it anymore, you all. It's almost like it happened yesterday, right? But I'm like, I couldn't do it no more. So I'm 16 years old and I'm thinking this. I'm like, I have to find a way to get out. Like, I have to do something different, you know? And I did, y'all. Let me get up. Gotta stretch. But I did do something different. And I felt so good about it, y'all. It felt so empowering. You know, I know a lot of people gonna have different views on this topic. So feel free to comment. Like, share your views, share your opinion. because I'm definitely going to share mine. Um, but like I said, I was dreading getting my ass whooped. The ride home from my school to my house, I'm just dreading it, y'all. Like I'm imagining it in my mind. And then I can feel my hands getting sweaty, y'all, my heart racing. I told myself, I can't do this. Like everything in my body was like, no, no. So we pull up in the driveway, get out the car, complete silence. Nobody's saying nothing to each other, right? My mom go to her room. And when she go to her room, y'all, I pulled a move, y'all. I had to pull a smart move. And I left. I walked away from her house. And this is like forbidden, you guys, to do that. You get what I'm saying? Like, just imagine growing up as a child and your parent has been disciplining you, giving you the cord, fuck up damn belt, an extension cord, beating your ass naked with an extension cord, hard as they can hit you. You get what I'm saying? And I said, no, enough is enough. I couldn't take it no more. And I know she wanted me to take it, right? Like, in her mind, she was doing the right thing. In my mind, because I had come to a point where I'm just too smart for this. Like, come on. When a person is a certain age, it's like, okay, they might sit there and take it because that's a child. But at the age of 16, when I say it was so bad to the point where I felt like I will find a way to live on my own. You don't have to take care of me anymore. Like, y'all, it got to that point. This is the point that it got to. And so, when Oliver Brown says, belt, extension cord, or a switch for my father's disciplinary items of choice, clothes on or off depending on what we did wrong. It was all the time our clothes off. That was just, like I said, it was a ritual. Every single time, take your clothes off. What's the point of having your clothes on? That's not a good beating. Your clothes got to be off. So, in my mind, I was like, no, enough is enough. And I walked out the house, and by the time she came back to the living room, because her room was in the back of the house, and by the time she got to the living room, I was down halfway down the street, and she came down the street. Y'all know she came down the streets to get me. At 16, that's just unacceptable. That's what I'm saying, y'all. See, I had to block girl, y'all, because I got offended, because I'm like, this is not just y'all. I don't know how y'all grew up, what y'all talking about, but I'm talking about something different. And people, I feel like they don't understand where I'm coming from. So that's why I feel like I have to share this. I have to kind of break it down, take my time with this topic, and talk about it with you guys. And I appreciate you guys for watching and for chiming in and commenting and sharing your views and perspectives. So I was halfway down the street, and she came behind me, y'all. And so she came behind me, and my mom, being the dominant woman that she is, she talked me, y'all. She talked me into coming back. First, she was like, where you going? And I was like, I don't know. I had no plan, no destination. I was just going somewhere. I don't know where the fuck I'm going, but I'm going away from this goddamn ass whooping. I'm not about to do this. Like, we're not about to do this. She wanted me to strip naked and lay on the bed and continue the whole fucking ritual, the abuse, right? And I'm like, I told myself I couldn't do that anymore. And so she was like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going somewhere. And she was like, well, you just can't leave like that. Where are you going? And I was like, I'm going to stay with my dad. I'm going back to my dad's house, right? And so, mind you, this is like 4 years after she left my dad. She left my dad when I was 12 years old. So I was approaching my seventh grade year of school. And I guess she just said, whatever, enough was enough. So she left. And I had already lived with her for 4 years at this time. And I'm 16. And I'm just like, I can't do this. And so she was like, well, your dad is not gonna take you shopping for a dress, for your prom dress to go to the prom. Like, she said this to me. I remember those words, y'all. And I said, I don't care about the prom. I don't want to go to the prom anyway. I just want you to stop beating me. And then she was like, well, you did something wrong in school, so you're going to have to get disciplined. You're going to have to get, a whooping. And I'm like, I don't want to get a whooping. Like, I was very resistant. Like, come on. What teenager isn't? Right? You're talking about a person who is developing into an adult. At this time, I already had a period, my menstrual cycle, and I already developed breasts. You get what I'm saying? So I'm just like, what? What do you expect? What do you expect teenagers to do, parents? They are blooming into adults. You cannot paralyze a child. You get what I'm saying? That's essentially what adults do if you call yourself trying to beat a child when they're 16 years old. I don't even think it's appropriate to beat a child, period, if you ask me. Especially how the kind of beats I got. But, so she was just basically trying to bargain and try to get me to come back to the house, right? And so, eventually she got me to come back, Even though I didn't care about the freaking prom, she was like, your dad not gonna do that, And she was just saying that, right? She was just saying that to get me to come back. And she didn't know that didn't really matter to me at the time. I didn't care about the freaking prom, I care about my freaking security, And so we walked back to the house together, and she was like, well, I'm not going to beat you like I usually beat you, but just hold your hand out. And so I held my hand out, and she hit me like 3 times. And that was the last time she hit me, because I said never again. And I made a plan, me and my dad, unbeknownst to my mom, she did not know. She was not in this plan. She was definitely not part of the plan. But I talked to my dad because, come on. I could write, I wrote him a letter and I mailed it to him. And he got the letter, read it, and I told him about how I hated, living with my mom. And I just hated it, y'all. I hated it. You get what I'm saying? I didn't like it. To me, people say, oh, that's just love. She care. And trust me, I believe she did care, because I believe that she was only doing to me what was done to her. And we had this conversation. I'm grown now, y'all. I'm grown. You get what I'm saying? So we've had this conversation, and she told me that she only did to us what was done to her. My grandmother beat the fucking shit out of her, and it's just passed down from generation to generation. I'm like, I know I'm a descendant of slave, because it's a lot of shit that was practiced that you can just tell. Some things I just don't really feel like comfortable going into, but you can just tell. And so, I made a plan with my dad, and we did it. We set it up, set up the date and everything. It was summertime, y'all. It was summertime, approaching my junior year, 16 years old, and I'm just like, I'm tired of these ass whoopings, man. I can't, that shit ain't working. It's not working with my development. You get what I'm saying? As a woman, to still be getting ass whoopings, it just didn't work, y'all. So, yeah, I didn't let my mom know. She was not in on the deal. And when she was at work, my dad planned to get me, whatever, he picked me up from the house, her house. And to the loo, I was off to stay with my dad. And the rest is history. The rest is in my book, American Dreamer. You guys feel free to check that out. You can order your copy or whatever. Right now I'm doing pre-orders, and it's free. So no worries, because you guys will get a chance to read it first. Look, y'all, I'm all choked up on my words. Even just talking about it, y'all, my mom got me freaking shook. You get what I'm saying? That's what I'm saying, y'all. This is abuse. That's how the cycle of abuse works. Apparently, my father endured more horrific abuse from his mom, too. That's what I'm saying. That's why I want to have this kind of discussion with people who are intellectuals and not, like, silly, immature people. Because some people, I don't know her age, but some people get on here and they are so immature. They don't know really how to have this kind of discussion about such a serious topic, there's discipline and then there is abuse, and I already admitted that I believe I was abused. There's no question it was abuse, especially by today's standards. And like I said, the rest is history. So yes, you guys can feel free to go to my website, but I'm not really here to promote my book, American Dream, but I do want to let you guys know, if you want a full story, feel free to get a free copy of it. And that's only for a limited time only, obviously. But feel free to go ahead and get your free copy from my website at danielleleach.com. But so I have more to share, y'all. It just takes some time because I don't think I ever did this. I don't think I ever talked about this in depth like this. It makes me nervous talking about it because it's so taboo, and it's kind of awkward, some things I can't really share. But after that, I would go stay with my dad, and like I said, the rest is history, It's a lot more to the story. Y'all know it's still a lot more to the story. But my dad took good care of me. I love my dad. And, I think the way my mom disciplined me, it did obviously create a distance between me and my mother. So while I love my mom, I love her to death. That's my freaking mom, so don't play with me with my motherfucking mom. But, our relationship, I think, is kind of awkward. It's kind of awkward. Because I do look at it. I do look at the discipline different. Some people say, oh, it's discipline. She loves you. And I know she did it out of love, y'all. I know she did it out of love. But when I'm talking about people keeping this tradition because it's tradition, right? And they say, oh, well, it's not just a race thing. It's just a parenting thing. It's like, no. You have a group. I'm talking to a specific group, a specific culture of people, especially raised in the South, because this is very common. Not just South, though. You got people in the North that got their ass whooped, too. But, y'all, in the South, it's a whole nother level. Some people don't get it, but some turn the subject into a joke as a defense mechanism to stop them from processing their own experience. Exactly. I processed it when I was young because I was aware that it was something that was not right. I realized that this is not right. I know, when I was a child, it felt like love. Thank you, Oliver Brown, for being a freaking fresh voice of reason, because we need that. We need that. But I knew as a child, I didn't know as a child. As a child, I knew that she loved me, right? But I didn't know that it was abuse. So I just lay there, I felt like, okay, my mom just being a parent and she's, taking care of me. So I love my mom, I always love my mom, right? But as I grew older, our relationship changed. It definitely changed. And we definitely grew apart, When I was 16, I didn't even want to look at her. You get what I'm saying? And even when I got to my dad's house, right? I ain't finished telling y'all the stories. I got distracted. But when I went to my dad's house, we got to my dad's house, right? Eventually we made it to Jacksonville. It's only, 20 miles away. And I got a call from my mom. Of course I get a call from my mom, right? She where the hell my damn daughter at, right? She got home from work. And I wasn't there, And that's a big no-no, It's you don't freaking go nowhere without getting permission. And so I just felt so empowered to do that. I felt empowered to escape her fucking rule, Like I said, I felt like a slave. She owned me and I didn't have a choice to do anything. And it was just all about what she told me to do, And so it's if I didn't do what she said do, how she said do it, it was a spanking. And not just a spanking, but a beating. I just call it spanking now because that's what you guys recognize it as. And so she called and she was like, so where you at? And I was like, I came to my dad's house, I told you I was tired. I'm tired of this shit, And so I didn't say it like that, obviously, but I'm saying it now. And then she was like, she still tried to pull that same thing. It's well, your dad, he ain't gonna take you shopping for prom. He's not gonna get you a prom dress. And I'm like, this lady has no sense of, and I can say this thing about my mom, right? Because I can say this. But understand, my mom is a very respectable woman, so don't y'all get on here, going into my freaking mom. Don't go into my freaking mom, y'all, because I love her. You get what I'm saying? As any child would, that's a whole nother aspect of it. When children are growing up in a household where there is abuse, they're gonna love their parents unconditionally because that's their parent. You get what I'm saying? That's my freaking mama. She carried me. She delivered my ass. You get what I'm saying? Natural birth, no freaking medication. So that is my mama, y'all. That is my motherfucking mama. But our relationship, like I said, is awkward, and she tried to get me to come back. She tried to convince me to come back. And I was just like, no, 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 no. And I stayed firm in my decision to stay at my dad's house. I'm like, I am not, there's no way. It broke her heart. She cried. She broke down on the phone, cried her heart out. And I can hear her crying on the phone. And I'm 16 years old. And I didn't care, y'all. I had no mercy. I had no empathy for her. And her crying to get me to come back. I didn't care. I just felt like I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to be around her because she did not care for me the way I wanted her to care for me. She did not discipline me the way I expected her to discipline me, especially at 16. You get what I'm saying? Like, still getting beatings. Hell, even freaking as a child was even worse. The shit hurted, The shit really hurted. So, fast forward, right? And even till today, like I say, our relationship is just awkward. And at the age of 16, I wanted to share this story with you guys because this is I feel like the most important part of the story is that if at the age of 16, I came to an awareness, it's like a light bulb came on in my head and I woke up. And I'm like, wait a minute, this shit ain't freaking right. Something is wrong with this, right? And I was willing to make the risk of leaving, not even know where the hell I'm going, but just running away from home. But I ended up running, obviously back to stay with my dad, who I had, I still was in touch with my dad, even though, I was like 20 miles away from my dad, living in a different city, which is pretty much like, right, it's like metropolitan area of Jacksonville, Florida, or whatever. So it's really not that far apart. They weren't that far apart. We would always meet up. My mom, even through their separation for those 4 years, like my mom and dad still would meet up and, would take, they would meet like halfway or whatever. And that's how they would do it, So they weren't that far when it came to, my mom dropping me off to stay with my dad and vice versa or whatever. And so, what the freak, man. And so, I kept in contact with my dad. Like, even like I say, through the 4 years then when I was staying with my mom, like my dad, like we kept in contact, he would send me money, always send me money. Like, he made sure to do that. And, I do feel like, I missed my dad a lot. I really have missed him. And for you guys that just tuning in, we're talking about childhood beatings. And I already kind of went in and talked about my experience growing up getting whippings or whatever. I ain't really go to too much in depth. And like I said, I did want to tell you guys about like a couple of the beatings that I got and what led to the beatings. So I'm going to come back around to talk about that. But where was I at, y'all? Freak. So yeah, it's like I stayed, I went to stay with my dad. Yeah, during the 4 years, like I said, me and my dad, we were still close, so but through those 4 years, it felt like, I grew like a longing for my dad. I think my love for my dad grew stronger. And it's like maybe, I don't know, hatred towards my mom grew bigger. Maybe. I don't know. And so I'm like, what the fuck? I think I took the side of my dad. And that's kind of odd, I think, for a kid to take the side of their dad through a separation, like parental divorce. Because my parents were married or whatever. Before they had me, they were married. And they were married, for 12 years. My mom still carries my dad, last name. It's crazy. My last name is my dad's last name. So their whole freaking situation was awkward, And I think I took my dad's, I don't know, because I felt like my mom owed me something. I felt like she owed me at least a discussion to talk to me about why she left my dad. She never told me that. She never had that discussion really with me. And so I took the side of my dad, and I don't know, I just looked at my dad maybe as a victim in that situation, like, oh, poor dad, And so, I don't know, I just developed a longing, even greater longing for my dad, and loving for my dad. And my dad, we close. Closer than I think than me and my mom. I'm definitely a daddy's girl. And so, where I was going to go from there. I wanted to talk to you guys, about what led up to the beating. So I remember like a few beatings. I got plenty beatings, but it was like a good several that actually really stick out that I can recall. And y'all, these beatings just, you can't forget a beating like that, right? So one of them, there was a store in Jacksonville, Florida called Pick and Save. Now, you guys from Jacksonville, y'all know what I'm talking about. Jacksonville natives. It's called Pick and Save. And, it was a, grocery store or whatever. And we went there. And like I said, my mom's strict. She did not fucking play the radio, right? And my sister, her slick behind, right? She was a bad one. I was an obedient one. That's the thing. That's why I feel like I was abused, because a lot of whoopings I got, I didn't deserve them. I felt like my sister, she played a major role in that shit. And I got beat for a lot of shit she did. But I still that's my fam. I love my fam. And this is way back anyway. So I've moved on from it. But I can talk about this. I can have this kind of conversation with you guys about this. So we in Pick and Save, my sister was like, she was real slick. She grabbed a freaking candy bar, right? We in the checkout line. She grabbed the candy bar, and instead of her putting it in her pocket, she put it in my pocket. Now, mind you, I'm young. I'm a little kid. Like, I'm elementary school age. This is probably, I don't know, 8 years old. My sister, like, 11. Like, we were young. Probably younger than that. I don't know. I might be going a little bit too old. We probably was like 7, or I probably was 6. I'll make my sister 9 or 10. And so we in there, and she slid the freaking candy bar in my pocket, right? And so we walk outside Pick and Save. So basically my sister committed theft, right? Petty theft. And she included me in on the shit, right? I didn't even know, you know what I'm saying? I had no clue what was going on. So we get outside the store, and my older brother was like, he told my mom that my sister had stolen. We had candy in our pockets, and she told us, she's like, go take it back in the store. Took it back in the store. I will never forget that freaking ass whooping, y'all. We got home. She tore our ass up, man. Like, that was a fucking beating of a lifetime. She tore our motherfucking ass up so goddamn bad, y'all. I'm talking about whelps all over our motherfucking body, like everywhere. That shit hurted. I was like, and what I remember most about my beatings, I remember the welts and the bruises that were left, but I didn't really pay too much attention to that, because that, to me, I felt like that's nothing, right? Like, I learned to be able to deal with that part, just looking at the aftermath. I think what was the hardest part was just getting it. The pain, just sitting there laying there and not being able to get up and being forced to take, a whooping, and not knowing how long it was going to last, and just feeling the freaking belt and the cord and the cable cord against my freaking flesh. You get what I'm saying? It felt so bad. I think the older I got, the worse they got. The worse the beatings got, I felt like, because, I don't know, the pain got worse. I realized that it was wrong. So I realized it was more of a psychological aspect to it, where I felt like I was really being abused. When I was a child, I felt like, okay, I just got in trouble. I got disciplined. But I think as I grew older, I'm like, I'm getting abused. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is not right. And so, we had to go take it in, and we got back home, and she tore our ass up. It was the same ritual of taking off our clothes, laying across the bed, and getting our ass beat. You get what I'm saying? Getting our ass tore the fuck up. And people say, oh, that don't have nothing to do with slavery. It has a lot to do with slavery. You get what I'm saying? People try to erase the fact that like slavery didn't happen, as if it didn't happen. Forget about it. Don't think about the results of it. Don't think about the residual effects of it. Like, no, we have people living in this country that it's like almost a neglected fucking tribe when you think about it. Kind of neglected. People just look over it as if like they brush over it like it's nothing. Like say, oh, all races get whoopings. It's like, no, it's a different kind of ass whooping when you getting your ass whooped by a black parent. Trust and believe that, especially a black parent who was a descendant of a freaking slave, because that tradition is so freaking strong, and it's almost like they take us a pride in it. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's deeper than just, oh, I'm disciplining a kid. You get what I'm saying? So it's more like they have to do it, and religion definitely plays a role in it. Christianity plays a role. With the whole thing about spare the rod, spoil the child. So you got parents that wear that shit as a badge of honor. My mom, she would walk around and be like, my kids know better. Like, she would brag about her ability to be able to control me and my sister, whereas some parents be walking around struggling like they could not control their freaking kids. And she was like, not me. And she, even as we got older, I remember her saying how, like, how in houses people would have like things on the table, like glass figures and stuff on the table. And parents, when they have little kids, they feel like they have to take them away and put them up. And my mom would literally brag about the fact that she had the ability to be able to leave her glass figures on the table and we not touch them as little toddlers, as little kids, because we knew better. Like, she didn't, absolutely no tolerance, y'all. No, zero. When I say freaking zero tolerance, like so little patience for the bullshit, right? She would tear our asses up. She did not freaking play. And that was just one. Another one, I'll tell y'all one more. Another one was my sister. This was a little bit when she got a little bit older. My sister had company over. And it was our friends. We shared friends or whatever. And so we had, I guess you could say we had company over. My sister was in charge. She was 3 years older than me, right? And we wasn't, of course the rule is not to have any company, any friends over in the house. And so we did. And my mom beat us for that. Tore our ass up like old fashioned style. When I say slave style ass whooping, y'all, I don't think I'm doing justice to it. It was a slave style ass whooping because I'm watching. I remember being in school, right? And this is because I have enough intellect so I can have this discussion and look at it from this perspective. A lot of black people, I feel like, are in denial about this shit, and they laugh about it and joke about it and be like, oh, it's nothing, kids eat their ass whooping. You hear that a lot, if only kids got the ass whoopings that we got, back in the day, they wouldn't be as bad as they are. You have a lot of people that say that and they make that claim. And I do somewhat to an extent agree with it, but I don't think I would never advocate for that because, I remember what it was like and I hated it, Some people, and I think that's where I differ from other black people. I do, because, and it's just me coming to the realization when I was 16 years old. Like, I just see it differently. I see it as abuse, an abuse of freaking power and authority, being that my mom obviously had power and authority over me, being my mother, my parent. I just look at it as an abuse because I feel like, there are other ways. There have to be other ways to discipline. You don't have to always go and get a belt and beat a child, especially in that way. And, I will never forget it. I feel like it definitely has shaped me into a certain kind of individual, and I was just talking with a friend. It's kind of more than a friend, but I can't really say too much. But I was talking to someone who he offered his perspective on the topic, and he was saying basically differentiating between abuse and discipline. And he's a defense attorney. So his perspective is quite interesting, right? And so we're having a conversation about it, and what he's saying, I'm listening to it, right? And we're having this discussion. And I know I said that I think where I'm kind of going is kind of a different topic, but it's related. So I'm going to give you guys a little piece here, and I'll probably come back and just do a separate video to talk about, BDSM, because I have to mention it, because it's definitely related when it comes to talking about childhood abuse. And I know a lot of people who are in the lifestyle, a lot of people, right, will say, it has nothing to do with getting beat as a child, and some will say, yes, it does have something to do with it. But you have a lot of people in the lifestyle that never got an ass whooping, that never got beat or disciplined as a child, but they are attracted to the lifestyle and they just like pain. They, consider themselves masochists, right? Or submissives. And it's just something that is a fetish for them. But for me, I think it's different. It's quite different. And that's all I'm going to say on that topic. But that's, I think, where it gets kind of tricky because, now that I'm an adult, there is such lifestyle where there are certain practices and people, adults, consensual, willing adults come to a mutual decision that they want to practice certain things. And I would have to say that I think, me growing up in the way I was disciplined definitely has played a major role in certain interests that I have as it relates to BDSM. So I don't necessarily look at it as a bad thing because I feel like as an adult, now I have the right to choose. So that's where in the difference lies, whereas when I was a child and growing up in my mom's house, I didn't have the right to choose. I had no choice. I had to take it. But now being an adult, I definitely have a choice, and it's weird. It definitely is weird because, it's like, I go from being a child where I hated it, I definitely hated my mom doing that to me, to an adult woman, who actually has kind of learned to adapt, to my experiences. And I don't know, I actually enjoy it. It's weird, y'all. It's weird. But that's a whole nother video. I kind of want to do that separate, leave that separate. But that's definitely a whole nother video. So I'll save that for later. I kind of want to end this video more on a serious note to talk about child abuse and child abuse reporting, because now that, I've been in the field actually since 2006. That's when I graduated. Well, before then, actually, I guess you could say 2004, when I first stepped foot into the health field, right, in the health profession. I worked specifically in mental health. So I've been, of course, trained a certain way, trained to respond to situations in a certain way. I've worked with kids who, part of the foster care system, seen some awful cases with kids who basically were just left to fend for themselves, one kid was just left in a dumpster, It was unfortunate. Some things you see, in this field, it's just sad, right? But definitely, working with kids, working with, now I work with adults with intellectual disabilities and severe mental illness. So it's definitely, it becomes a factor in working, with pretty much any client, working with people all together. But especially in this field, I am a mandated abuse reporter. So as part of that, if I identify any signs of abuse, whether it's physical, mental, psychological, emotional, financial, then I am mandated by law to report it. Now, I know you guys probably wondering, like, what the hell that got to do with childhood beatings? It has a lot to do with it, because I say that to say that I think it's very interesting to see how the law has shaped parenting practices and how children are, reared today versus how they were reared back in the day. And I feel like a lot of it, that's the reason why I feel like it's so taboo, because the law basically has gotten tougher. It's gotten stricter. So parents just they don't have the right to just beat their kids like that anymore. You know why? Because kids are aware that they can go and they can make a report. And not only just kids, but people around them. Like, a lot of people are mandated reporters, not just therapists or psychologists, but police officers are mandated reporters, teachers in the schools are mandated reporters, daycare providers, people who work with kids in daycare. Like, so it's all around, like every corner you turn, to the point where, parents really can't escape it. Although you have a lot of kids that are, a lot of kids still get spankings, and I think spanking is more of a lighter term. Definitely is more of a lighter term to give it, right? It makes it seem as though, okay, it's just discipline. It's not abuse. Whereas a beating, on the other hand, is. And when I grew up, that's what it was called. It was called beatings, and that shit was serious, and it wasn't nothing light about it at all. It was some serious shit. When I say I grew up in a very strict household, I grew up very strict, very disciplined. That's why I think, I look at it and I say it's not necessarily a bad thing that I grew up that way, because I just look at my character now as an adult, and I see, like, wow, no wonder I'm so freaking disciplined, and like it never leaves me. It's like I'm just trapped. I'm just trapped being disciplined. I'm trapped in this mentality. Thanks to my mom, I love her, and so, yeah, there's this issue. There's this question as to, is it abuse, for parents who decide to discipline their kids in that way? And at the end of the day, a parent can do what they want to with their child, right? Because like you say, you had them, so you can do what you want to with them. Those are your kids. Nobody can tell you what to do with your kids. What goes on in your household stays in the household. But as you guys can see, that's not necessarily always the case, because for me, what went on in my household growing up, I didn't feel like I should necessarily keep it hush hush, And of course, I definitely endured some backlash from my family for that, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm an adult now. I'm an adult, and I can speak out about it, and I can have an opinion about it and a perspective about it, and that's just my perspective, and I stand on it. I feel like a lot of African Americans just don't. Just like Oliver said, like a lot of people, it's a defense mechanism. People laugh about it and make light of the situation, and just like, oh, it's just tradition. It's just something that is normal. Every black kid should get their ass whooped or whatever. But it's just like, no, y'all don't understand. It's not necessarily a good thing. And for some kids, I think it's subjective, really. It's relative. So when it comes to whether it's abuse or not, one can make the determination based on the person who is receiving the pain. If the person say they want it, they don't see nothing wrong with it, which I think a lot of African American kids, kind of grew up that way, and they didn't see nothing wrong with it, right? Even somebody earlier, the girl commented earlier, and she thought it was just funny because it's just so common, like she says. So a lot of people may not see anything wrong with it, but I'm definitely, look at my phone. I'm definitely a different kind of person, and I see a lot wrong with it. If I'm a child, I don't care who's taking care of me. I'm like, you're not gonna put your hands on me. Unless I give you permission to put your hands on me. Like, I don't know. I don't know where that comes from. And I think about it, I just get it maybe from my mom. Like, I feel like I have a right to assert myself. And I was very assertive, I think, especially when I became a teenager and I started to grow and become an adult. Like, I was very vocal and articulate. You get what I'm saying? I wasn't one of those kids where it's just like, I was quiet. I mean, I grew up quiet, I think, up to a certain point. But even when I was a child, I was very talkative. Like, I remember the first day, and I have to end this video because I have to. I've been talking to you guys way too long. But I remember, I'm just going to say this. I remember, even when I was fucking in kindergarten, like my first day of kindergarten, my teacher gave my mom the report. She was like, your daughter is a good kid, but she's just a motor mouth. She just talks too much. That was a report. And I just knew I was going to get my ass tore up. But thank God I didn't, because my teacher told my mom I was a good kid, So I still remember that. And it's crazy because it's crazy. When I was like in my early 20s and I was a substitute teacher, I saw my kindergarten teacher, y'all. I saw her. Like, I bumped into her at a school that I was working at as a teacher, and I was like, wow. And she just had to stop everything. She dropped everything and stopped her class and was like, hi, guys. She introduced me to her class and was like, this is one of my students. And I can't believe she's still teaching. That's just an amazing thing. Like, 20-something years later, she's still teaching, and she was my kindergarten teacher, y'all. I'm like, wow, she's still teaching. And it was just a crazy moment. That was okay. Let me get back on topic, y'all. But where was I at? Oh my gosh, I get sidetracked. So, y'all help me. Where was I at? What was I freaking saying? How did I get to start talking about my freaking kindergarten teacher? My mind is crazy, y'all. It does that sometimes, but I guess that just means it's time for me to end this video. It's been lovely talking to you guys, and I just definitely want to end this video to emphasize the fact that, it's important, and I was talking about it matters based on the person. So if the person themselves who is being administered the pain says that it's something wrong, they don't like it, then that's when you should stop. You get what I'm saying? That's when I feel like it's something wrong. And not only that, but I feel like parents should know. Like, I don't know. I think I don't have kids right now. I'm 34 and don't have any kids. And I want some kids. But I always said when I have kids, I am not going to beat my kids, because that's the last thing I want. I don't know. I don't want to continue that tradition. I don't want to continue that cycle and to accept it as something that's normal. I don't think that it's normal. I think that it's awful, it's terrible, and it, definitely creates a distance between the child and the parent, because there are other ways, and that's the only way you discipline. And I felt like that was the only way my mom disciplined. Like, she didn't talk. There's no talking, no communicating, no debriefing or none of that shit. It was, go get the belt. She didn't even say go get the belt. It was like her ass, she got the belt, and she didn't even have to get it. Like, I remember she had a place for the belt on the couch. The belt was just sitting on the couch. The belt, the extension cord, the cable cord, they were all just sitting in the middle of the couch in a certain spot. And it was just like we knew what time it was. And it's just crazy, y'all. I feel like it's just sad. And definitely being in the field, it's just crazy. Like, oh yeah, I know what I was saying. So being in the field and having worked in the field since freaking I was, how old was I? I graduated college when I was 22. So, like, yeah, since 20, and even my early 20s, like, this is not right. I realized, like, it's not right. I've seen cases, kids get abused. I see it's not so much the physical pain, right? Because I feel like human beings we can handle the physical. You get what I'm saying? The wounds are going to heal. It's more psychological than anything. It's definitely psychological. And I think that's where the problem lies, for parents who want to choose that route to discipline their kids. I hope I'm not overstepping, but do you plan on writing about your experience? This is in your book. I think it's important to share your success story with young individuals who are going through similar where are they? Individuals who are going through similar abusive situations, to let them know that they are not alone, that some people do get it and do care and do encourage them, that no matter what their situations are, they can rise above it like you have and make something of themselves, and that their situations do not have to define who they are as a person will determine the outcome of their future. Your book could also be instrumental in encouraging our young people not to be afraid to deal issues and learn how to process them in a positive, therapeutic way so that it doesn't overshadow the choices that they make later on in life. Yeah, I've shared, trust me, I went in the book. I just haven't released it yet. And it's a lot of reasons why I haven't released it. At the time that I was going to release it back in 2010, because I wrote it in 2009, right? I wrote my book and I was going to release it in 2010 because I finished it a year later. And I get a call from my sister and she was like, Mom said that's how people get sued. That's what she said. And I remember because it was like a couple days before her daughter's birthday, my sister's daughter's birthday. And I was supposed to be going down there, which I ended up did. I still went, right? But it was kind of like this eerie feeling, you know, between me and my sister. And I'm just like, it didn't seem right. But what happened, I shared an excerpt from my book on my website at the time. And I was talking about the abuse, but I was talking about other things too, like conditions in which I was living in. And I guess my sister shared it with my mom, and my mom took offense to it. She felt like it was just the family's business, and I should not have shared that information, which I ended up taking it down. I went on my website immediately, and I just took it down. I deleted it, right? I shared an excerpt on my website, and I deleted it. But the excerpt, you know, people were responding to the excerpt, and they were just like, you know, oh my gosh, da da da. And I know when I post this video, because I usually, you know, I go live on Facebook, but I usually download my videos and upload it to YouTube so I can share it with my YouTube following. And I know people are going to comment, you know, and I didn't make this video. That's not my intention, you know, to bash my mom. Like I said, I love my mother. That is my mom. I talk to her. You get what I'm saying? I see her. She lives in Florida. Most of my family lives in Florida. And I love my mom. So don't take this video as like, oh, you know, as, you know, an invitation to go attack my freaking mom. Because, no, I'm going to attack y'all motherfucking ass. But, you know, I just felt like, yes, I needed to tell my story, you know. I felt like Oliver, you know, definitely that's part of my story. But my story goes way deeper than just me getting childhood ass whoopings, you know. You know, it kind of starts there, but it don't end there. And I want to tell it from a perspective that is very mature, responsible, and that I feel that can, definitely benefit other people, you know, because I just feel like it's a lot of abuse going on within households, and people aren't honest about it. You know, I feel like that's how you know this shit come from slavery. You get what I'm saying? Because the shit is so normal. Like, when you look at something that is so wrong, right? But you've been conditioned in your freaking mind because it becomes part of your culture. It becomes something that is just, it's so abnormal, but it becomes such a huge staple in your culture to the point where you don't even look at it as abnormal, right? You look at it just as something that's normal, to the point where you look at people who didn't get ass whoopings, you're like, what the hell is wrong with you? Are you black? Like, are you black? And people say, oh, it's not a race thing, but I have to emphasize, like, yes, we know kids who grow up in white households, they get their ass whooped too. Cause who do the better ass whoopings? White people. We know that shit come from slavery, man. You know, people may say, okay, that shit came, people was doing it in Africa. People been, you know, whooping slaves or whatever, but nah, I'm talking about history, and this is immediate history, y'all. Slavery, that shit was just abolished when in 1800s. It ain't been too long ago that slavery was abolished. You get what I'm saying? So, and my grandma was born in the 1900s. So, I'm like, well, we all were born in 1900s, but I mean the early 1900s. It's getting late, y'all, sorry. But she was born in the early 1900s, and I already know. Trust me, I already know. I do my fucking family ancestry. I already know that I'm a descendant of a slave. I'm not ashamed. I'm proud of it than anything. I take pride in being a descendant of a slave, you know, because we have our culture, we have our history. You know, certain things that it's just a language. You can tell even the language that we use, you know, in the household, and the way my mom talked to us, you know, just the way we communicate, and it's hard to even explain. It's just something that we do, you know? And even to this day, I have a respect for my mom, you know? I have a respect for her, and you can see it when I'm around her. You can definitely see I have a respect for her. But I feel like, yeah, it's a discussion that I needed to have this discussion. I needed to put it out there. And I want you guys to feel free to comment and share your perspective on it. So I don't think you're bashing your mom. All you're doing is sharing your truth. There's a difference between sharing your story and going off on an angry rage by cussing. Oh, that freak. Oh, let me press the wrong button. By cussing, set individuals out in a disrespectful manner, and you have not done that. No, I feel like there's other ways to talk than to curse. Yeah, I use profanity, but you know that's not really my choice word. You know, to use profane language. Now, my mom, on the other hand, she used a lot of freaking profanity. Speaking of a person who do a lot of cussing, it's my mom. She do a lot of freaking cussing, but that's it. I think I have. I kind of want to keep the focus on, you know, childhood ass whoopings. There was a lot, definitely. I think, you know, more to it, more to the abuse than just the ass whoopings. A lot of it was verbal, but I'm not really talking about that in this video. Maybe I'll come back and do another video on that. Definitely was verbal, but yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope you guys share this video with your following, because we want to get different perspectives. I know everybody got their own perspective, you know, and I was saying, I did share it in my story, you know, and I was going to release my book, American Dreamer, in 2010, but I didn't. I think that kind of played a role in it, though, when I got the call from my sister, you know, because I kind of wanted to have more respect, I guess, for the family, but meanwhile, figure some things out, you know, to protect myself. And the story is going to be told regardless. There's more to the story. You know, I have a lot to say about this, you know, and it's not to push my family under the bus or my mom or no. Like I said, I love my mom, but I feel like some things need to be said. And I know what the experience was like for me growing up. I know that shit was freaking hell. Let me see. I need to end this video because it's already been 1 hour and 27 minutes. But thank you guys for watching, you know. Thank you guys for tuning in and listening. And please share this video. We got to get different perspectives on this topic because I already know you got a lot of people that advocate for childhood ass whoopings. They like, these kids, they ass whoop, they bad, and I was not a bad child. You know, I felt like, yeah, I felt my mom just overdid it. She just be sitting there. I think she was just an angry person. You know, I think my mom grew up with a lot of anger because of her childhood, and it was just passed down. You could tell shit that's intergenerational, you know? That's a whole nother video, you know? That's why I say I know I'm a descendant of a slave because a lot of shit is just intergenerational shit. Just passed down like that Willie Lynch shit. Passed down to the point where, you know, we live in 2018, you know, and you got kids feeling like they slaves. Kids living in black households feeling like they freaking slaves. And it's just like, no shit. We talking about the Willie Lynch syndrome, and I know this kind of is a different topic by itself, but it is related. The Willie Lynch syndrome and how, you know, there is a certain order to maintain white supremacy. Dog, the beatings play a major role in that shit being implanted in religion, which I don't necessarily agree with. You know, I'm no longer a Christian anymore, but the whole thing about spare the rod, spoil the child, I feel like all of that shit is a whole part of the whole scheme of things, y'all. We talking about maintaining control, People say, oh, they laugh and say, oh, no, it's not about race. But no, I see it as a systemic problem. This thing is bigger than just parenting. You get parenting plays a role, but this is bigger. When you have a system that can have, you don't even have to have no freaking slave owner no more. The parent is now the slave owner. The parent is already shaping these negative views in their child, you know? And we wonder why kids grow up with low self-esteem. You know, black kids feel inferior. A lot of that shit come from the parent. Thank God I am in the process right now of doing a study. I'm just waiting on IRB approval because I'm about to do a study looking at black identity development in parents and implicit racial bias in their children. So I'm looking at pairs of a parent and a child within the African American community. There's some issues, y'all. This shit is intergenerational. We got some trauma, some problems, and y'all want to sit up here and laugh about it and try to make light of the situation. And I get it. It's cool. It's different ways we deal with it, different ways we process it, whatever. That's fine. You know, but can we have a serious discussion about this topic? You know, because I know a lot of this shit is just passed down from one generation to the next generation to the next generation. And then we have this stigma where you cannot talk about it. And that's how it keeps being passed down. You know? So guess what? The slave that you see, the so-called slave, think about the last generation of slaves before the slaves were freed, right? And how fucking fucked up their mind was. Not even thinking as an individual. You know, they wasn't even viewed as a whole person. They were viewed as property. They couldn't make decisions. They ain't have no say-so. You get what I'm saying? That same mentality being passed down. Because why they gonna, once they get free, they're gonna have family. They're gonna do the same thing to their kids, what was done to them. And their kids gonna do the same thing. Because they say, oh, it's just natural. You know, this is tradition. So we're gonna keep the tradition alive and keep doing the same thing. Don't even look at it like a beating. It's not a beating. It's just discipline. It's just the way you take care of a child, the way you handle a child, right? And it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And even through the 1980s, where the decade I was born, 1983, and it's the same thing, you know? And then I get to a point where I, of course, got wise enough to realize that, hell no, this shit is wrong. Something is not right about this, you know, and it's bigger than just, oh, it's wrong because it's abusive. It's wrong because we're talking about keeping up intergenerational cycles, which need to be broken from a psychological point of view, you know. Black people talk about how we're going to get free from this fucking post-traumatic slavery disorder. Stop beating your goddamn kids. I can tell you that shit right now. You know, because it shapes a different kind of mind. Trust me, a child's mind that's beaten. And I ain't talking about discipline. I'm talking about fucking abuse. You know, compared to a child's mind who's not, is different. Now, I was able to overcome it, right? Because I feel like I developed along the way good ego strength and coping skills and somehow found a way to manage and deal with it. But not everybody is able to do that. You get what I'm saying? So you have kids that are having to fight and struggle through this abuse, psychological, emotional, physical abuse, and they don't necessarily get that opportunity, you know? They don't necessarily, it's not that easy for them. It wasn't easy for me, but they have a hard time. You know, it makes it much difficult for them. And I feel like a lot of times we just don't want to talk about that. And then you wonder why you have women that are attracted to men who abuse women. You get what I'm saying? Like, this shit is all related. We don't want to have this conversation because, oh, it's taboo. And I'm like, fuck taboo. As y'all can see, all of my topics are pretty much taboo topics. Not on purpose. It's just something I feel like I'm drawn to and attracted to talking about stuff that a lot of people just don't want to talk about. Because I feel like, number one, you can't tell me I can't talk about something. You know, if anything. You know, and there's a lot of things that I feel that need to be discussed and need to be talked about that are keeping people paralyzed and crippled for so long because they haven't talked about it. You know? I came to you guys to talk to you guys, you know, responsibly and respectfully and maturely, you know, because you guys are adults and I want to have an open conversation about it, you know. But I feel like everybody, including myself, you know, we definitely, it's helpful to be able to go to therapy and to get professional help to talk to somebody about this shit, you know? It's not right. You got parents that still beating the shit out their kids. And I'm talking about really beating them and not just beating them physically, but mentally, emotionally, you know? Breaking their fucking self-esteem down. It's not to say a kid can't rise above that because you have a lot of kids, trust me, that were abused as children, but they definitely rise above it. They rise above everything, you know, and that just makes them stronger. It made me stronger as a woman, definitely. You know, I feel like I can take anything. Looking at, you know, the challenges I faced growing up, I can definitely take anything now as an adult. So I kind of take pride, you know, in my childhood growing up. You know, I feel like it's not that it was all bad, right? I talk about my beatings, but when I was a child, I was happy. That's the thing. Like, a child is, ignorance is bliss, right? So you don't know. You have no clue that it's something that's wrong with it. You're just happy. So I grew up happy, making all straight A's, like top of my class. I was the star student, you know, like nothing wrong. Nothing wrong at all. But thank you guys for listening. And I want you guys to share this video. And I will be back, of course, with more videos. I always have things to talk about. But I'm trying to think. Did I cover everything I wanted to talk about? Because I did have a lot I wanted to share, especially on this topic. I really kind of wanted to hear too from you guys. You guys share and tell me if you got ass whoopings and if it feels comfortable for you, excuse me. But if it feels comfortable for you guys to just share that you got an ass whooping and you want to put LOL behind it, you know, or you want to put a laughing face behind it, then it's not going to offend me. You know, I'm done talking about it, you know, and I'll probably come back and maybe talk about it some other time. Sometimes I just like, I don't want to talk about it, you know, because who cares, you know, who cares? I moved on, you know, and it is what it is. So thank you guys for tuning in and love you guys. And I am about to get me some food and lay down because I have class in the morning. As you guys know, I'm a second year PhD student in clinical psychology, and the road is going pretty smooth right now, knock on wood. Thank God. I'm actually approaching my third year as a PhD student. Before you guys know it, y'all, I'm going to be Dr. Leach. So wish me luck. I'm hanging in there, y'all. Thank you guys for watching. Love you guys. Bye.